Alex stood in the doorway, the weight of Sarah's question hanging in the air like a thick fog. "Are you finally ready to stay?" she asked again, her voice quiet but full of meaning. For a moment, Alex couldn't find the words. How could he explain everything he had been feeling? How could he undo all the damage he had done by being absent, by choosing work over his family? He stepped inside, closing the door gently behind him. Sarah was standing by the couch, arms crossed, eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and hope. Alex could see the exhaustion in her face, the kind of tiredness that went beyond physical fatigue. It was emotional. She had been carrying the weight of their broken family for far too long, and Alex knew it was his fault. "I'm here, Sarah," he said finally, his voice low and unsure. "I'm here. And I want to fix this. I want to be the man I used to be for you, for the kids." He could see her eyes soften for a second, but then she shook her head. "It's not that simple, Alex," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. "You've been gone for so long. I don't know if I can believe you anymore." Alex swallowed hard. He knew she was right. He had promised so many times before, but every time he made those promises, he had failed to keep them. Words meant nothing now. He had to show her, prove to her, that he was ready to change. "I know," Alex said, his voice barely a whisper. "But I'm willing to try. I don't want to lose you, Sarah. I don't want to lose this family." The room fell silent. Sarah didn't respond right away. She just stood there, her eyes searching his face as if looking for something. Maybe she was looking for sincerity. Maybe she was waiting for the old Alex, the one who had been reliable, present, and loving. The one she had married. Finally, she sighed. "I don't know if that's enough anymore. I need to see that you're serious. I need to see that you're going to be here, for good." "I will," Alex said firmly. "I swear, I'll do whatever it takes." Just then, they heard the sound of footsteps coming from the hallway. Alex's heart jumped as Jack appeared in the doorway, his face lighting up when he saw his father standing there. "Dad!" Jack exclaimed, running toward him and throwing his arms around his waist. "I missed you." Alex's chest tightened as he hugged his son, the weight of the moment crashing over him. He had missed so much, too much. How many moments like this had he missed? How many times had Jack wanted him to be there, and he wasn't? "I missed you too, buddy," Alex said, his voice thick with emotion. Emma appeared behind Jack, her face a little more cautious. She was older, and the hurt in her eyes was harder to hide. She had seen it all, the empty promises, the long hours, the absence. But when she saw Alex, she hesitated for a moment before walking over. "Dad," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Are you really going to stay?" Alex bent down in front of her, feeling the weight of her question. She was searching for the same thing Sarah was, for proof. "Yes, Emma," he said, his voice soft but filled with determination. "I'm staying. I'm going to be here for you. For both of you." He reached out and hugged her tightly. "I'm sorry for everything. I know I haven't been the dad you needed, but I'm going to change that." Sarah watched quietly from across the room, her arms still folded. She was listening, watching, waiting for Alex to follow through. Alex could feel the weight of her gaze, and for the first time in a long while, it felt like he was standing on the edge of something important. The next few days were difficult. Alex had promised to stay home, but it wasn't easy. The world outside was still calling him, still offering the distractions that had always pulled him away. The temptation to go back to work, to pick up that one last job, was always there, whispering in his ear. But every time he looked at Sarah, every time he saw the kids, he remembered why he had made the promise. He couldn't let them slip away again. He had already lost so much. One evening, a few days after his promise, Sarah came to him as he was sitting at the kitchen table, looking over his phone. She didn't say anything at first. She just stood there, watching him, her eyes filled with something Alex couldn't quite place. "Alex," she finally said, her voice calm, almost resigned. "I want to believe you. I really do. But you have to prove it to me. Actions speak louder than words, remember. Alex nodded, feeling the pressure build. I know. I'm trying, Sarah. I'm trying every day. That night, when the kids were asleep, Sarah sat beside him on the couch. For the first time in a long time, there was no tension between them. No anger. No frustration. Just quiet. They sat in silence for a while, each lost in their thoughts. Finally, Sarah spoke. What's going to happen, Alex? What do you want out of all this? Alex looked at her, his heart pounding. He wanted so much. He wanted to be the father and husband he should have been all along. He wanted to be there for his family, to be present in ways he hadn't been before. But most of all, he wanted Sarah to believe him again. I want us to be a family again, he said quietly, his voice steady but full of emotion. I want to make up for everything I've missed. I want to show you that I can be the man you fell in love with. And I want to be here, for you, for the kids. Every single day. Sarah didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached out and took his hand. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything. It was a sign that maybe, just maybe, they could rebuild what had been broken. The next day, Alex made a choice. He took a day off from work. For the first time in a long while, he didn't pick up his phone to check for new jobs. Instead, he spent the entire day with Emma and Jack. They went to the park, played soccer, and had ice cream afterward. It was simple, but it felt like everything. Later that night, as he tucked the kids into bed, Emma looked up at him and smiled. Dad, she said, her voice soft, you're really here. Alex smiled back, his heart swelling. I'm here, Emma. I'm here for good. Alex sat at the kitchen table, his head in his hands, staring at the pile of bills in front of him. It felt like the weight of the world was pressing down on him, and the longer he looked at them, the more suffocating it became. There were past due notices, credit card bills, and a letter from the bank about a mortgage payment that was nearly a month overdue. He hadn't planned for this. He had promised Sarah he would be home more, that he would step away from his old driving job, but the reality was much harder than he had imagined. Being home with the family was what he wanted, what he needed, but now the money was running out, and there was nothing to replace the income he used to make. He had tried to make other plans and applied for jobs, but nothing had panned out. He even looked at online ads for part-time work, but most of them required skills he didn't have, or they offered low pay. The bills kept coming, and his savings were nearly gone. It felt like a ticking clock, and with each passing day, the pressure grew. His phone buzzed on the table, pulling him out of his thoughts. It was a message from his old boss. Hey, Alex, we've got work lined up for you. Good pay. Same old job. You in. Alex felt his heart drop. He had promised Sarah that he would stay home, that he would give up the long hours on the road. He had wanted to be there for her and the kids, to make up for the lost time. But now it felt like he had no choice. He stared at the text for a moment, unsure of what to do. Part of him was angry at himself. How had he let things get this bad? How had he thought that quitting his driving job would magically solve everything? But the reality was that his family needed money. They needed him to be strong, to provide, and that meant going back to what he knew. It wasn't the perfect solution, but it was the only option left. He heard the sound of footsteps behind him. Sarah walked into the kitchen, her face soft but tired. She had been working long hours herself, and the last thing she wanted to deal with was Alex's dilemma. But she knew something was wrong. She glanced at the table. Alex, what's all this? She asked, her voice gentle but laced with concern. Alex looked up at her, trying to hide the panic in his eyes. The bills. They are piling up, Sarah. I don't know how we're going to make it. Sarah's face fell, and she sat down beside him. I knew it was going to be hard, but we're managing, right? I mean, we've been making it work. You promised me, Alex. You promised that you'd stay home and help. That we'd figure this out together. Alex closed his eyes, feeling the weight of her words. He had made a promise to her, and he was breaking it. He was about to go back to the one thing he knew was the cause of all their problems in the first place. I'm not sure we have much of a choice, Sarah, he said quietly. I've looked for other jobs, but nothing is working. And the bills, they're not going to stop coming. Sarah's eyes filled with frustration. You can't keep running back to that job every time things get tough, Alex. You promised me you wouldn't go back to it. This is exactly why we agreed you would be home more. For us. For the family. Alex ran a hand through his hair, his frustration growing. I know. I've tried. But it's hard, Sarah. We need money, and I don't know how else to do it. They sat in silence for a moment, the tension thick between them. Sarah took a deep breath, her voice quieter this time. I get that. But I can't do this on my own. I can't keep being the one holding everything together while you go back to doing what we both know is destroying us. Alex stood up abruptly, the pressure in his chest feeling like it might explode. He paced around the room, thinking about the job his old boss was offering. The money would solve everything. The bills would be paid, the house would be secure. He could stop worrying. But at what cost? I'm not going back to driving full-time, Sarah, he said finally, his voice firm. I don't want to lose everything we've built here. But I have to do something. I can't sit here and watch us drown in debt. We both need to make this work. Sarah stood up and walked over to him, placing her hand on his shoulder. Alex, I understand the pressure you're under. But there has to be a way to find a balance. We can't go back to the way things were. We just can't. Alex looked at her, a mixture of guilt and determination in his eyes. I'll figure it out, I promise. But I need you to trust me. The silence between them hung heavy, but Sarah nodded slowly. I'm not going to make it easy, Alex. But I'll try. For you. For us. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, Alex sat in the living room alone, his thoughts swirling. He knew he couldn't go back to his old job, not full-time. But maybe there was a way to make things work with part-time driving, something that didn't take him away from home for days at a time. It wasn't a perfect solution, but maybe it was the best he could do. As he sat there, looking at the quiet house around him, Alex made a decision. He would call his old boss in the morning. He couldn't let his family go under. But this time, it would be different. He would find a way to make it work for them. I hope you liked the video. If so, please like the video, comment what you learned from this story, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories just like this one. Thank you.